Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining the Clallam EDC Coffee Chat, Coffee with Colleen. We are really happy to have Kenan Fikri join us today. Kenan was actually just recently up in the Clallam County area. He is with the Economic Innovation Group, and it's exciting to have Kenan because I he was and their organization was very involved with the actual legislation when this was approved back in 2017, and then also very involved with the changes that were just passed under the One Big Beautiful Bill. So with that, a couple items. If you'll keep yourself on mute so we don't pick up background noise accidentally, that would be great. And then if you want to ask any questions, I know Kenan has a lot of slides, over 30, so he's got a lot to get through. There's a lot of moving components and changes that are going to be occurring. And so he definitely is an expert on this federal legislation. So I want to give him plenty of time to answer those. So if you have a burning question, you can either put it in the chat or raise your hand. We'll try to get to you, but I want to make sure we don't run out of time. So with that, Kenan, please take it away.
Okay, thanks so much, Colleen, and it's great to be back with you and in Clallam County virtually as a distant second best from actually live and in person, but I will take it. And here, let me get, whoops, no, my slides shared. Whoa. Okay, share, Microsoft PowerPoint, done, and presentation mode. Let me know. Does that look good?
Yep, looks perfect. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and please feel free to interrupt if I don't see a question pop in through the course of the slides. Very happy to. Yeah, so again, thanks for the chance to join you. With the Economic Innovation Group, we're a bipartisan DC-based think tank that is dedicated to forging a more dynamic and entrepreneurial and geographically inclusive U.S. economy. And as Colleen mentioned, when we were formed in 2015, the idea behind opportunity zones was really the first policy idea that our organization launched with, and we worked on a bipartisan basis to get it passed into law the first time around in the TCJA in 2017, and worked again with another nice bipartisan group of reformers to try to get some improvements and opportunity zone permanence into the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that passed this summer. Through that process and being so close to the legislation and this policy, I've been able to occupy a privileged position really to see how this, new tool, this experimental tool in many ways has actually impacted communities across the ground, and hope to share with you today kind of some insights and inspiration of how different communities across the country have leveraged this tax tool for local economic development. Some top line summary statistics. Well, I guess before I jump into the numbers, a quick reminder, that about what opportunity zones are for those who may be uninitiated. It is a capital gains tax incentive that allows any private entity in the United States to realize capital gain, put that into a dedicated opportunity fund, and get certain tax benefits for reinvesting into kind of new economic activity in designated census tracts. And governors are responsible for designating a subset of low-income census tracts in their state as opportunity zones. So the slides are meant to be a bit of a crash course, and we have a lot of other resources on our website too, but hopefully that's enough to just get everyone up to speed to know what it is that we're talking about. So unfortunately, a lot of the data on actual investment through opportunity zones, I'll say OZs 1.0 to kind of demarcate what happened before the new law was passed last July. The data only goes through the end of 2022, and we don't have any more granular detail than at the state level. But even then, we can see that really in the first 5 years of OZ investing, here, let me collapse that. Almost every state saw at least $100 million in new private OZ capital come into low-income communities utilizing this incentive. 24 states received at least a billion, and Washington was a national leader in many ways with a $2.4 billion invested through opportunity zones. If you normalize that by population, so look at that investment on a per capita basis, nationally, $238 of OZ investment occurred per resident through the end of 2022. At the state level, Washington, is about par for the West, ahead of California, behind Arizona and Colorado to some extent, but still, well above that national baseline. And then, one common theme that you'll hear through this presentation is that jurisdictions that tend to, make it easier to build and to absorb population growth saw a lot more opportunity zone investment than other locales. And here, Utah and Washington, D.C. are kind of a red and blue example of states that are very pro-growth jurisdictions nationally and saw saw OZs kind of put some wind in the sails behind the development that they needed to support their population growth.
So,
And
Kenan, do you have
yeah,
information by census tract or county?
there is not a confirmed OZ investment by census tract or county. No, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's buried in IRS tax records. OZ investors do have to record census tract level information. It hasn't been made public though. That will be
Okay.
that's one of the improvements that was passed with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Unfortunately, we're not going to have that information in time to make the new round of zone designations next year.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, we have the Emerald Coast Opportunity Zones that zone
Hmm.
which was 10 census tracts in Clallam County, 4
Yep.
census tracts in Jefferson County, and we had put a lot of effort into trying to make that successful. And I've been trying to track what investments have occurred,
Hmm.
but it's just word of mouth. And so I would have loved to have known what the outcomes are.
Yes, yes, you are not alone in that. No, and unfortunately, yeah, because the nature of the incentive, unless an opportunity zone investor raises his or her hand, you don't know whether a new development activity in an opportunity zone is actually utilizing the incentive or not. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But we do, so my colleagues here on our research team have tried to, make the milk the available data for all that it's worth, and try to estimate at least what the impact of that OZ investment has been on designated opportunity zones. And here they looked at residential addresses only through a Department of Housing and Urban Development data set that aggregates U.S. Postal Service data, which is, of course, the richest database on addresses in the United States. And we can see here that, opportunity zones, which by definition have to be low-income communities, they really lagged behind non-opportunity zones in the just rate of growth of addresses in any given year. So you see, that 0.7% on the lower line there just means in Q1 2015, in opportunity zone tracks, the number of addresses just increased by 0.7% in that quarter. And OZs trailed non-OZ tracks. Fast forward to the period kind of past OZ's passage, and then of course development takes time. You have to raise money, you have to build a thing, and then people have to live there for the addresses to be fully registered. We start to see OZs really increase and then surpass non-OZ tracks just in the rate of address growth, such that we've kind of seen double the rate of here new housing unit growth in opportunity zone tracks post passage, which is a really big measurable impact that suggests that this has had a real effect on the profile of communities that have been designated. Okay, that's some of the kind of top line stats about why this matters. It has the potential to move a lot of capital. It has moved a lot of capital, and it has significantly increased the population growth of designated communities. So looking forward, what do state and local leaders such as yourself need to know about OZs 2.0, by which I mean kind of opportunity zones going forward now that the provision was made a permanent feature of the U.S. tax code in July's tax package. So some basic principles here about what's new. So one, the incentive structure has changed. It's going to make it a smoother and more predictable flow of investment going through opportunity zones. In under 1.0, because there were some fixed years certain by which point benefits went away, we saw a lot of investment cluster kind of in the 2020 and 2021, kind of in the throes of the pandemic there, and investment fall off afterwards because some of the tax benefits went away. The new structure, and I'll get into this in more detail, creates rolling benefits such that it should be, again, a smoother, more predictable flow and less a one-time surge that then fades. Second, there are new rural provisions that add significant tax benefits for investments into rural areas that we expect to demonstrably influence behavior such that rural areas can hopefully expect more OZ investment going forward than they saw in the past. And given the definitions in the statute, Clallam County and Jefferson County are considered rural, and we'll get into that as well. Zone eligibility and designation. Governors are going to be called on to nominate a new round of census tracts to be OZs in July 2026. So around the corner now in 6 months. And the new criteria does in the legislation makes it a little stricter on what types of tracts qualify. So that means that most states are going to have fewer opportunity zone tracts to designate going forward, which makes kind of makes the importance of each designation even greater. And then to your question before, Colleen, on reporting and transparency, finally, a long-awaited and robust data collection and publication regime is going to be stood up over the next year or two. However, and unfortunately, the results of that and the insights from that are not going to be available to inform zone designations this time around, but it should really help demystify OZ investment going forward and for your own work, as this again is a now permanent tool in the toolkit. So timeline of what's ahead. Won't go through all this, but just so you have it for reference, really that the key thing is that on July 1st, 2026, a 90-day window is going to open for governors to nominate the next round of opportunity zones that will go into effect in 2027 and last for a decade. I think, as you all know from last time around, it sounds like many folks here were involved. It will be important to work with your colleagues and partners in Olympia to make sure that the best census tracts in your area do get OZ designation. And then,
as I understand it, the Department of Commerce is going to designate someone at Commerce to run the program and give recommendations to the governor. I see Carlina is on, who works at Commerce. Carlina, do you know who's going to handle that by chance yet? The last time I asked, they hadn't decided who was going to be responsible for that.
There, Carlina, Community Engagement Specialist in the Director's Office at Commerce. I think it's Andrea Chartok, and there is a internal work group discussing this, and so I think there will be external communication very shortly in the next month for sure. So you guys are on Terrific. It, and we'll be ready when announcements are made. But Andrea, you know Andrea?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I do. So, yep.
She's leading it.
Yep. From the Economic and Division of Economic and Competitiveness Division. Yeah.
She's the assistant director there. So
yes.
And with a lot of federal experience. So yep. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. And then you may notice between the last two dates there that there will be a 2-year overlap between the kind of Opportunity Zones 1.0 map, so the tracks that are currently designated now and have been since 2017. That map is, by law sunsetting at the end of 2028, but the new map by law will activate January 1, 2027. So some tracks, may have continuity. They may have been designated in 1.0 and 2.0, but some tracks, especially maybe some that no longer qualify based on the stricter criteria, will still be eligible for new investment and investment under the terms of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which are preferable for rural areas for 2 years, for all of 2027 and all of 2028. So want to just emphasize that so people can keep that in mind, that the new benefits will apply to the old map or the map that's currently in existence. And there could be a reason if your tracks may sunset because they no longer qualify to really try to make the most of that 2-year window when the new benefits are active on the old map. Okay. Uh, the three tax incentives, yes, and tax benefits that opportunity zones confer are a deferral, a step up, and an exclusion. Okay, so that deferral means that you can defer the taxes that you owe on any capital gain that's rolled into a qualified opportunity fund. Those are easy kind of corporate papers to set up and that have to govern, though, all opportunity zone investment and file IRS forms. So you can cash out of stock today, put the proceeds, your capital gain, into an opportunity fund. And under the new rules, you'll have a standard 5-year deferral that you can delay paying the taxes that you owe on that money that you invest into opportunity zones. And then the second benefit is a step up in basis on those gains. Once that tax bill becomes due, under the new rules, that will be a standard, 10% step up in basis, basically a reduction in the tax bill that you're going to owe at the end of that 5-year period. As I kind of mentioned before, this is this rolling standard 5-year deferral and standard 10% step up in basis will result in kind of a smoother incentive structure than the first time around and should mean that this is kind of something predictable that you can incorporate into your planning going forward. And then the third benefit is an exclusion of any capital gain on the investment that you made into an opportunity zone and held for at least 10 years and then sell. So you get really zero, you have to pay zero capital gains taxes on any opportunity zone investment you make that you dispose of after, that you hold patiently and then dispose of after 10 years. And that is the same in OZI's 1.0 and OZI's 2.0. And that's one of the major factors that differentiates OZI's in that it brings patient capital to show up in communities because you really have to hold on to your investments for a long time in order for that potentially biggest tax benefit to be meaningful. Okay, the rural provisions, which again, I believe all of the Olympic Peninsula will qualify as rural. Oh, I see a question. Let me. Um, yes, a 1.0 fund, I believe can. Yeah, I'll think about that too and come back to it, but I do believe. Yes, that's okay. Okay, whoops, sorry. Let me X out of the questions. Okay, the rural provisions, which will apply to you all, means that investors who put their money into a special class of qualified rural opportunity funds, which are saying, I mean, they're just opportunity funds that invest almost exclusively in qualifying rural areas, will see a stronger step up in basis on any money that they put into an opportunity zone. So they will, instead of that 10% step up in basis after 5 years that I mentioned, it'll be a 30% step up in basis, which means it's a stronger upfront reward, really in anticipation of the long-term appreciation potential perhaps being lower in rural areas than it is in more urban settings. But this is, a 3x greater incentive, in the near term, the 5 years down the road, if you invest in a rural opportunity zone fund. So we expect that this will draw a significant amount of interest. And then for any investment made into a rural OZ, if investors are acquiring an existing asset, they only have to meet a 50% substantial improvement test instead of the standard 100% substantial improvement test that applied in 1.0 and will apply to urban OZ investments going forward. So here, what do I mean by substantial improvement of an existing asset? This is really if you say acquire a rundown building for $100,000, it means, and that's your basis in the investment, it means that going forward, you'll only have to invest $50,000 on top in order for it to become a qualifying OZ investment instead of having to invest another $100,000 on top under the prior rules. And then, these qualified rural opportunity funds have to hold most of their assets in rural areas. But yeah, I think that shouldn't be a problem. It's kind of fits with how folks set up their OZ investment vehicles generally. And our read is that these will hopefully deliver a lot more capital for OZ areas than we saw in 1.0. And a special note, we'll get to more of this later. Rural areas do tend to host a much wider mix of opportunity zone use cases than urban areas. In metropolitan settings, OZs have delivered a lot of apartments. In rural areas, we see a lot more, just a greater mix of industrial uses, of kind of downtown core uses, of theaters and cultural assets, and all sorts of different commercial uses too. So there's a real mix of OZ applications in rural areas.
So
Okay.
Kenan, if there
Yes.
is an investment, a qualified opportunity fund that started under 1.0, it gets redesignated under 2.0, and it's a rural community, would that step up in basis go from 10% to 30 for the entire investment period? How
Um,
does that work?
yeah, good question. It would go, uh, so it would apply to new money put into that fund that would have to kind of rebrand or qualify itself as a rural opportunity fund, which should be doable.
Okay,
So it would apply to money put into that fund after January 1, 2027. Uh, yeah, so it does have to be fresh money for that step up in
okay.
basis to qualify for it. Does that answer the question?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Um,
This is where it starts to get hairy. We're going to get a little more interesting later, but I wanted you all to have this and to understand how it works.
okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, and then zone eligibility and designation. Sounds like you're already on top of it, but yes, that new 90-day window for designation is going to kick off this summer. Um, but the one thing that will impact you is that the median family income of a qualifying tract, used to have to be 80% of the area benchmark. So for you all, would have to be if a census tract had a median family income that was 80% of the states or less, it would qualify. Now it can only be 70% or less. And that actually did, it's counter to a lot of congressional intent, I think. It really disadvantaged rural areas where, poverty may not be endemic, but incomes clearly lag the statewide average. You kind of peers in areas like Minnesota, Wisconsin, New England, again, where rural poverty isn't deep, but incomes still lag, were disproportionately disadvantaged by this. So just something to keep in mind as you look at eligible tracks going forward.
So when it says area benchmark, that's the state median family income?
If you're outside a metropolitan area, it's the state median family income. If you're inside a metro, it's that metro's median family income.
Okay, and where do we find the source for that data point?
The source
Is
for
it
that is that's going to be the American Community Survey from the U.S. Census
okay?
Bureau. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
And
Thank you.
sure, sure. And we do expect, so new census data is going to come out January 29th, I believe, 2026. That will be the vintage that decisions are made off of. We expect Treasury to publish an official kind of eligibility spreadsheet and or map soon after that too for you to look at. So you can run the numbers yourselves, of course, but there should also be an official list of which census tracts are eligible that you can consult as well.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so most of Clallam County right now, so the orangish color is designated as an opportunity zone. This would be, I think, the Emerald Coast OZ initiative and
Mhm.
effort that you all led that ensured that this happened. And on the right, I zoomed in on Port Angeles itself. You can see that all of downtown Port Angeles is not just eligible, but currently under the 1.0 map designated as an opportunity zone. Fewer tracks are going to be eligible the next round. So here the orange colors are just ones that are OZ eligible. And I'll toggle back quickly, but you may want to study them more on your own time. And there are links in this presentation to maps that you can explore too. So less of the area is going to be eligible, and that includes based on what we expect from the data that's available now, which is, of course, the 2019 to 2023. It's the prior vintage than the one that will be official, but the number doesn't change. The numbers don't change that much from year to year here. So this is provisional assessment, but provisionally, we think that, again, there's one census tract there in the downtown core of Port Angeles that looks like it may go away and no longer be eligible. So again, this is provisional based on data we have now. The new official data will become available later this month. So do just take this as a general guide until that official data comes out. We expect Washington State will have 27% fewer OZ tracks to nominate next time around than it did under 1.0. Again, this is because it was relatively disadvantaged by that tightening of the median family income criteria. So expect there to be about 100, maybe a couple of hundred and change OZ tracks going forward.
Yeah,
Okay.
and for Clallam County, we have 1% of the population, but we had 10% of the census tract. So we got more than our fair share for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll
Wow.
have to really advocate to keep as many as we have.
Yeah,
That will be a challenge.
that will definitely be a challenge. I think the rural provisions help your case. If the rural provisions weren't there, I think it would be even harder to make. But yeah, that's a great point. Yes. So we recently published, it was a couple weeks ago, and may have been the instigation behind this invitation, I believe, a guide, for governors and mayors and local government leaders to inform their zone designation process. So this is also available on our website, and I'll drop a link in the chat later. But it lays out, 8 principles to really set up a robust, vetted, zone designation process that begins with just getting a head start on preparing data and getting up to speed and doing exactly what you're doing right now. And then, it's working with your state and other community leaders to set a vision for, how you aim to harness opportunity zones and what you hope it will, deliver and catalyze in communities in your state. And that, again, because there will be fewer tracks to designate this time around, I think knowing exactly, what each designation is for will help make the best decisions and even help manage the political economy of having to tell more people no. And then, engaging local partners strategically there. It sounds like with the state on this call, that's already starting. Local governments really know their communities and the investment opportunities locally much better than someone in the state capital can. So, kind of, establishing those just partnerships and communication channels to feed local qualitative information up into what's probably a more quantitative state-led process is really essential. And yeah, that gets to both 5 and 6, balancing economic need with investment potential. An area can't just be low income for OZs to work. It's a marginal incentive. It taps into investors' desire to actually make money. There needs to be investment potential in the community too. And then, as I mentioned, combining quantitative and qualitative insights is really important because there's only so much you can tell about a census tract by looking at its summary stats on a spreadsheet. You really need to know the look and feel, history, and potential of a place in order to make informed designations here. And then also important, this last point, to align OZ nominations with other supportive policy tools in the toolkit. OZs, they are just one marginal tax incentive. Often it takes a lot of different policy tools coming together to make super high impact investments happen. So we've also, in that same document, proposed a 3-part test for identifying good opportunity zone tracks. One of these is a community test. You want to make sure, given that, OZ designation means that the whole public, will be supporting and subsidizing investment into designated communities. You want to make sure that this area genuinely needs new investment to grow and diversify the local economy so that residents can prosper. If it doesn't kind of pass that community test or that need test, or it seems like this place is doing fine without the OZ incentive, it's not a designation worth making. You also want to make sure the area passes the market test, that there's a reasonable chance that this community is going to attract private capital and put it to productive use within the policy's timeline. And then finally, a local policy test. You want to make sure that local policies are investment friendly and conducive to economic development. Because again, if local rules and regulations or other policies make it hard to impossible to build and invest in a community, this OZ designation isn't going to make a difference. So it may be better to deploy it elsewhere. Uh, there's also a resource that a screenshotted here, and then there's a link in that source line to folks at Frost Brown Todd, which is a professional services provider that I thought had really nice insights into determining where to put rural OZ designations in particular. And here they bucketed into two different groups. So one eye towards an industrial activity where OZ designations may overlap or be well placed around major highways, port infrastructure, or rail and intermodal infrastructure, as well as development ready sites. And also, it's important to keep an eye towards placemaking and economic development in small town centers, county seats, historic districts, etc., where that OZ designation might help, just attract a diversity of capital to support the vibrancy of the local community too. So do check out that one as well. Now, so much for zone designations. Now, looking forward, let me do a quick time check. Yeah, looking forward, zone designations are not everything. So, what else needs to be in place for a community to make the most of its OZ designations? So here, I encourage everyone to think through what tools are at your disposal because yeah, OZs are a private incentive generally. Formal state and local government involvement doesn't go beyond designating zones. Yet there's still a number of levers at hand that can help influence or unlock capital. So one, you could think about what you might want to contribute to projects. Permitting and approvals there may be number one. OZ investors are sensitive to timing and dates certain and clocks ticking in the statute and regulations. So anything that you can do to increase certainty, shorten approval times, and just help investors know what to expect on what timeline will be, I think, well rewarded and quite welcome because time is money in the end, and I think uncertainty really does have a tax on OZ investment, maybe even more than other types. You could think of whether there's publicly owned land to contribute directly to projects or maybe to ground lease to OZ investors for really high impact or meaningful things in your community for nominal fees. And then occupancy guarantees. Maybe it could be that locating a part of county government in a new anchor or making county government an anchor or a county health facility an anchor in an OZ investment will help the economics of that project pencil out and help make sure that they can deliver that new development for your community. And then there are other tools to help drive investment towards impact, like inclusionary zoning, maybe overlaying Main Street or small business support grants and programs with OZ designations. Could be even helping locally owned businesses get grants or loans to occupy the new the new real estate, the new business spaces created by OZ investment as well. And then partial assembly and remediation can also be very useful, where sometimes piecing together smaller parcels into something bigger for a developer or investor to take over, or if you have really big tracts, maybe even breaking them apart into smaller pieces that are better scaled with the tight amount of capital you expect to attract. So just thinking about land, I think, is very important too. And then capacity building and ecosystem development grants to help the local investment nonprofit ecosystem understand the OZ tool, try to build an investor base and a viable project base, and just help put the pieces together. There's some impact case studies that I encourage folks to just read through on their own time, put some of these principles into action. So one that I really love is called Opportunity Alabama. This was a totally new organization that was catalyzed and started in response to the OZ incentive. And a local leader there who said, the quotes there at the top, OZs didn't come with a playbook, and in Alabama they decided they needed one. And they knew that their corner of the country had been bypassed by successive waves of public and private investment, and they recognized potential in OZs, but thought without an entity on the ground really putting the pieces together, it too would pass them by. So they were created with a focus on rural Alabama to do, three things. One, work with communities who didn't necessarily have the capacity to do kind of the pre-development work or even pitch themselves to investors. Two, work with investors who had an interest in the state, but maybe someone in Huntsville, grew up in rural Alabama, but had no idea what investment opportunities there were down by Mobile or over in other corners of the state, yet would still contribute capital to a fund that was dedicated to reinvesting in the state. So they really cultivated almost the supply of capital on the one hand, and then they worked to identify projects and funding resources and other things to help complete the ecosystem as well. So really, yeah, dedicated to doing the legwork on all legs of the stool here, if you will. Another impact case study comes from mid-sized city, Evansville, Indiana. There, OZ connector or OZ investors were able to work with a local nonprofit to connect with national impact investors that on a meaningful redevelopment that blended a lot of state capital, some local tools like tax increment financing districts, a grant from a local foundation, and just put all these pieces together to deliver, much needed new housing and commercial space in a distressed corner of, a distressed city in the Midwest here. So I think this is a nice example of how local capital can plug in with national networks while still being kind of the foot on the ground in a community and blend a whole bunch of different sources of capital together to produce something really meaningful for the community. Also in Indiana, this one it's great if you have it. It's hard for others to replicate potentially, but it's a nice, reminder that in this country, there are a lot of people with capital gains, and many of them, may also be retiring. So in this case, a local business owner sold their company off as they were headed into retirement, had a large capital gain, and then realized that opportunity zones gave them the opportunity to actually redeploy that money into their hometown. So they, this town of Brookville, it's just 4,500 people, I believe, hadn't seen any new development in over 20 years. And then come opportunity zones and really the happenstance here, the alignment of a local capital gain with an interested local developer, they were able to, unlock a project that brought, new apartments and assisted living for seniors, a pharmacy, restaurant to downtown, and even the first hotel in the area for a long time. So I think here the lesson that's applicable is to really work with your kind of business, your high net worth, your investor community to make sure that the OZ investment vehicle is on the radar of folks who may have capital gains and may really be interested in redeploying that money into their community.
So, Kenan, I spent a
Yes.
lot of time with investors talking to them about opportunity zones. And by the way, everyone, we have a website, emeraldfunds.org, that has information about our local opportunity zone areas in Clallam and Jefferson counties that the EDC manages. But what I found is that investors, generally speaking, were never interested in investing in a business. They just
Hmm.
wanted to invest in real estate. And frequently it was not a hotel because that was too
Hmm.
cyclical, that they wanted long-term, housing or something industrial where there was
Yep.
an assured tenant and an assured income stream. Is that kind of what you've seen across the US as a rule of thumb?
Yeah, that is what I've seen. Yes, and often even when the investment may be in a manufacturer, it's kind of in the building or sometimes a capital equipment, but it's kind of in the hard good, not really and in an equity stake in the business itself.
Yeah.
That is, and that I think you can expect to remain true in OZ's 2.0 as well. One of the
Mhm.
things that we were advocating for and have been for a decade now is to try to make OZs a better financing tool for businesses with regulatory and legislative changes. They didn't really make it in this time around. Yeah, that advocacy effort didn't pay off. I think, it's smart to stay thinking about businesses, but also, it's smart to stay thinking about real estate, but recognizing that, there are still important investments into real estate that can help business activity prosper in an area. So that could be,
Yeah.
commercial real estate, like here we see on the main street, rehabilitating those structures. It could be, other just other kind of brownfield remediations or things like that. And especially if a business owner themselves has a capital gain, they can kind of put that money into the real estate that their business needs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure. And then another impact case study I like, especially for you all, is a team out of Michigan's Upper Peninsula called Renovare. They do work statewide, but with a focus on the Upper Peninsula, where we're talking very remote, some very small towns, but where this team is operating almost on a larger regional scale, if not a statewide scale, to source really meaningful projects and find great ways to deploy their capital in affordable housing, in kind of food halls, in other mixed-use retail, in some very small, light tourism focused communities here in a similarly remote region of the country. And there, it is adopting that kind of broad regional scale and zooming out, not just here, Munising, Michigan, or another small town on the Upper Peninsula, but thinking much wider at like what scale can they really have a business model and a self-sustaining kind of investment raising model that allows them to not just take advantage of OZs, of course, but a whole bunch of other financing programs to do meaningful things in small communities and rural areas. And then fourth and final impact case study is your very own Port Angeles Wharf, which is an opportunity zone investment. And I don't know if Eric Marks is on the call. Hope so, but he's been a great partner thinking through some of this and preparing for this, where a 2020 OZ investment substantially improved what was a deteriorating waterfront asset. And through the OZ investment here, occupancy has risen to 95% post OZ investment. This is a nice example of how the real estate can help support the businesses, right? It's been a locus of job creation and entrepreneurship for 9 new small businesses. And yet, this investment, as many OZ investments, especially in rural areas, can attest, did encounter real pain points along the way around, labor supply, around the actual presence and cost of suppliers and contractors to complete the work, as well as just kind of some state obstacles around regulations or zoning and other things that didn't necessarily fit with the nature of this particular waterfront asset. And commitment from the local bank was really pivotal in making this work and understanding Port Angeles and maintaining a real just commitment to the community. And I think that that's another lesson that OZs are going to be more powerful, catalyzing the kind of local investment base to reconsider and put money back into the community. First and foremost, I think that's essential. And then if that's successful, they can then leverage outside capital to come in. But a lot of communities thought that just designating an OZ was enough to have outside investors who really had no familiarity with the community come in and finally be interested and see their value. And as nice as that would have been, that wasn't the case because as you think about it more and as experience shows, all real estate is local. Having trusted local partners is essential to getting investments done and over the finish line. And really, you want to make sure that your local anchors and beachheads and all are there cementing projects as a kind of fundamental prerequisite for then hopefully drawing in that outside capital and that force multiplying capital.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
Yeah, and
Eric's
this.
on a ferry right now, so wasn't able to join us, but
Okay.
I know he's been communicating regularly with you, Kenan.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. Okay, almost done ducking out for questions here. But this just ties those case studies together. I think as you're looking for not just, I mean, for 2026, 2027, beyond, for OZs, but not just OZs, of course, that you want to consider what regional scale unlocks all the pieces of a self-sustaining, local investment ecosystem, or gets you the critical mass of investors, impact agents, developers, and projects that you need. And the region, I know, has a great both history of collaboration and a lot of momentum now with the Recompete grant and other things. And I think operating on that regional scale is going to be really essential here for OZs 2.0 and beyond as well, because that's where you start to level up beyond kind of just the opportunistic or like, oh, this thing just happened to take advantage of OZs, to more of a local vesting ecosystem, which was one of the long-term goals of opportunity zones in general. Kind of tapping into that idea that people would love to reinvest in their communities if given the opportunity and the incentives to do so, and hopefully OZs help make more of that happen. So as you're looking forward, just remember that OZ investment is flexible in who can use it. Really, anyone with a capital gain. That's corporate, that's individual, that's an institutional investor like a bank or an insurance company. It's flexible in how much they can invest. They can invest $10,000, they can invest $10 million. And really the amount of paperwork and overhead is low and the same across those. And that's something that makes OZs a little more usable than like a new markets tax credit, where you have to kind of have a $10 million investment for the lawyer's fees to make it worth it. But OZs, it's just one IRS paper that you need to file. So it's super low overhead, which means you get some small dollar investments too. And it's flexible in what it goes towards. As long as it's something new or something improved and economically additive in a zone, it's likely a qualifying activity. So that means, yeah, they're just it's real open-ended in some of its applications. So wherever there's a place for equity in an investment, there's an opening for OZ capital. Okay, and then yeah, this I think I'll leave with folks mostly for just their own interest afterwards. And the point with this last suite of slides is really just to show that rural areas, even under 1.0, they did see investment. They saw investment in a wider range of activities than urban areas, including information, accommodation, manufacturing. I think the information would be data centers, but manufacturing I think is real. So this just reinforces the point that there's a wide variety of ways that OZ Capital has been deployed in rural areas, in workforce and affordable housing, in kind of basic industrial development and kind of industrial warehousing space, all the way to innovative space industries or tourism in Alabama. And we've also seen it in manufacturers, miners, shipbuilders, and agriculture in parts of the country as well. So reinforcing that it's a versatile tool. The mean, median, and modal OZ investment is and likely will remain housing and real estate, residential real estate development, but that shouldn't be the kind of end of the creative thinking and aspirations, because there's a wide variety kind of in the long tail of OZ investment there. So thank you for letting me take probably more time than I should have. I appreciate it. And looking forward to questions.
It's great. Thanks so much. We do have some questions in the chat, and I just want to emphasize too, though, we have a huge housing need in our county. So, if it's housing, that's great. That
Yeah.
solves, a lot of problems that we have. So, let's go to the chat. And so you answered the question, I think, about can a 1.0 fund be rolled into a 2.0 fund if the tracks remain the same? The census tracks that are approved, I think the answer is yes to that. You want to add anything more there, Kenan?
No, I'd say, I think that's right. A 1.0 fund should be rolled into a 2.0 fund, and just have to make sure that, in the tax years, I guess 20 beyond 2029. You're just reporting investments on the 2.0 map once that's all you're allowed to do. But yes, should be able to roll over. Thanks.
So Paul Gottlieb's next has the next question. Have you been able to gauge the impact of the Emerald Coast Opportunity Zone established in 2018 in Clallam and Jefferson counties? Something that Kenan mentioned is there is no publicly available data list on investments. I know of probably 5 different types of investment. The Wharf, of course, is one, Eric Marks in downtown Port Angeles. And then there's housing investments. There was one in the Forks area. And so I'm familiar and worked with several. There's one in Eric Dupar's is intended, the Anian, the towers next to Field Hall, that's intended to be an opportunity zone investment. And so there are, several, but something I found over and over again is, and there was a big qualified opportunity fund in Bremerton, and they spent over $150,000 with attorneys just to set up the fund itself and all the legal documents. And the pack of paper was an inch thick. And they ended up closing that down because it was so complex to get outside individual. And I think they were trying to get any investor, not just qualified investors, to invest in their project in downtown Bremerton. And they just found it was too complex, too difficult. And so one of the questions is there a qualified opportunity fund that entities can invest in? I think the overhead, the legal costs are so high that it doesn't make a lot of sense, that if you have your own capital gains and you want to invest, then it's much simpler. But to create an LLC that others are able to invest in is, it's just too much upfront costs. Is that a fair assessment, Kenan?
Yeah, I'd say yes. I mean, opportunity funds ended up being kind of much more closely held, meaning like fewer individuals or yeah, each fund had fewer investors, and a lot of people almost created single purpose opportunity funds for one capital gain to invest in one project because of that overhead. If you do that, it's very simple. As soon as you start to, yes, try to I think the more you try to widen the pool, the harder it can be to just engage in or meet the compliance burdens and stay qualifying. That being said, like we know that was recognized by both Congress and Treasury, and we believe that Treasury wants to make it much easier and simpler in the new regulations that'll be promulgated. So I'd say like keep watching it. It shouldn't get harder. It should hopefully get easier because ultimately, I think that is the goal and the holy grail, like to have a convenient way for retail investors, plenty of whom have small capital gains, to kind of put money in an opportunity fund for Clallam County or for the Olympic Peninsula. That would be wonderful. But right now, I think that's a little too hard for someone to establish. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So that pretty much answers the question Jim Hagwood had. I worked with national qualified opportunity funds and tried to attract them here. They weren't interested in hotels. They weren't interested in individual businesses. So they would have been interested in apartment complexes, and I pitched a bunch of proposals to them, but they didn't have the return, the pro forma return that they were looking for. They were a lower return based on the asking price of the land or the pro forma proposal. And then go ahead.
Yeah, on that, I was just thinking that like that's where maybe either shortening the approval times, which matters, or being able to contribute the land or something like that could help those returns pencil a little more. And then just on the housing point too, wanted to emphasize that the lower substantial improvement threshold was designed with kind of rural, more affordable housing in mind. That like if you're in a rural area and you have to double your basis, it's going to be very hard to keep an existing apartment building that you're trying to improve affordable. But with the lower threshold, the idea and the intention is that you will be able to, yes, attract that investment, still improve a property, and maintain, the affordability standards that are both expected and that the market can bear in rural areas. So that's the theory. We'll see if it pans out. But that was specifically kind of the idea behind that adjustment.
So can I give an example and you tell, so I'm thinking
Yes.
about a smaller investor. If they had 100,000 in capital gains and there was a $200,000 house, if they were to buy that house, use that 100,000 to improve maybe it's a duplex, the property,
Mhm.
then that would be a qualified investment. It'd be 50%
Yes.
improvement.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And that should be a qualifying investment. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And
Thanks.
they're renting out that duplex to others.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Okay. Lena's question also, are there local contacts that can assist with those fund investments? She's had a very difficult time finding a CPA or attorney to assist with the setup of an opportunity zone fund.
Yeah, so that gets to the ecosystem point, I guess. Yeah, I'm sure there are going to be plenty in the I-25 corridor, but kind of local attorneys and tax professionals with OZ experience. Um, yeah, I don't know. You may know more. The network locally may know more. Who's best for that? But I think that's part of the kind of what needs to be cultivated going forward.
Yeah. Kelly, do you have any recommendations for CPAs or attorneys? I know you've been involved with OZs.
Yeah, in the setup of mine, we did both a housing and aviation effort, still doing them. And we used outside attorneys and local attorneys. The best attorney in the area for OZ compliance in the Port Angeles area would be Eric Marks. He with the wharf. He has been helpful to me. I've used an outside firm in the East Coast. I think there's plenty of firms if you're willing to go outside the area that are pretty well informed, and they'll usually advertise accordingly. Is that
Okay,
helpful?
great.
Is that what you
Thanks.
were asking?
Yes, sure was.
I,
Terrific.
I don't really know. I haven't encountered anybody other than Eric on the legal side. I've not found any CPAs regionally that are pretty well versed in this.
Okay. Thank you.
Ke-
Okay, and then go ahead.
I was just saying, Kenan, I had put another one in there. I'm sorry. I was curious. I know there was talk of the new bill being capable of having the capacity to say I'm building property, it gets built, I sell it inside the fund and reinvest inside the fund to the next project. Has that occurred?
That has not occurred, but we've been pleasantly surprised, if not shocked, in recent conversations with Treasury that they think they may be able to help significantly on that front in the next round of regulations. So
Okay.
I'd say stay tuned, but no, that was one of the priorities that didn't get through. And a lot of the stuff, even the stricter qualification threshold, the 70% median family income, that was all for cost. They liked OZs, but necessarily didn't want more investment to go through it because that would cost more, and the fiscal situation was just so delicate in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Dale says, has there been any analysis identifying barriers to this type of investment locally? He's thinking about the difficulties Habitat has had in the city of Sequim compared to the project in the county. There has not been analysis. We've just helped entities that have investment interest, and there hasn't been enough that are similar to compare. So I guess the answer to that is no. let's see, we just answered Kelly's. Can you send the current city eligibility census tract map? Yeah, it's on emeraldfunds.org. And then if you click on need investment, it's at the bottom. Scroll down, the map is there that you can zoom into. And then Lena says, even in Seattle, I'm working with someone on the East Coast. Do we have any recommendations of people on the East Coast? So, and then I see that Kenan has put in the designation guide and the preliminary eligibility map into the chat. So it is 9:01. I'm sure there's a lot more questions. Kenan, do you mind if we share your email so people
No,
could
please.
email you?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll put
we
that
will
into.
do that. Okay,
Kenan,
terrific. You'll put that into the chat. Go ahead, Kelly.
one last question, Kenan. If you're at the end of 26, so this will be the year that we have to recognize any capital gains that were in there, maybe through depreciation or whatever, have an offset, but new investments into any existing fund for 1.0 is going to be immediately due in the same year. So that's sort of a tough spot right there. You can't go straight into the 2.0 with a 1.0 fund, correct?
I think that's correct. Could you say that again, though, just to make sure that.
Anybody that's in a 1.0 fund
Yep.
or they were going to put money, there's an existing fund, and let's say they have a
Mhm.
capital gain in 26.
Mhm.
If they roll that into the fund in 26, it's going to be due at the end of 26. That's the end of the deferral period for number one, correct? Did the 5-year roll
That
affect
is
2000, the 1.0?
no, that is the end of the deferral period. You still get the exclusion, but no deferral. Yeah, it would be due. You could still then invest it in the map and get, if you hold it for 10 years, get the gain, but
Sure.
otherwise, no.
That's what
I mean, you could realize a
that's
capital
unfortunate.
gain. I think you have 180 days, right, to get it into an opportunity fund. So
Yeah,
if you realize,
if you close at the end of the year, yes, you can roll it into the new year. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, very complex. And we've got Kenan's email there, kenan@eig.org. Thank you so much for joining us and really great information. And we appreciate all you do and all what you've achieved at the federal level. That's a Herculean task, and you guys were successful. So congratulations, and we'll try to make the most of the opportunities that have been provided to us. So
Thank you so much, Colleen.
thanks
Yeah, thanks for having
everyone.
me. I should have
Thank
sent
you.
Yeah.
everyone coffee first. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Enjoy your day, everyone, and Happy New Year.